All right. So today we're going to do some florals. And while Aditi always does some really pretty florals, mine I won't say are not pretty. Mine
I
are
will
just
say they are
very loose.
pretty. I will say they are very pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty than normal ones we do.
So I don't know about pretty, but they are quick. Okay, there's two things. One thing about loose florals is it's quick, and it is what shall I say? It is loose. That the key word there is it's loose florals, and so it is not limiting in its in the need for it to align to the reference picture. Okay, so with most of the detailed florals we have done, we are telling ourselves to try and capture as much of uh, uh, the qualities or the key characteristics of that particular flower that we are drawing, and we achieve it. So we are able to identify the flower that we painted by looking at it. But with loose florals, mm, that requirement is not very important. Okay, it has to look like a flower, yes, petals and leaves and all that. But if it changed a bit, or if you made a little bit of a mess, a proportion, slight proportion problems, that doesn't really affect your end result because the style is that way. Okay. Now, usually if you Google loose florals, especially watercolor florals, you will get the most common flower is the rose and peonies. They are by far the most commonly drawn, painted watercolor florals. Okay. And rose and peonies are very pretty. I do a lot of them myself, but they are not really, rose is Indian, all right, but they are not, a peony is not something we see commonly in India. It may be grown, but it is not common. Okay. So what happens is, I mean, nothing wrong with it, but I was just thinking when I was looking at florals this week, that I don't see so many people illustrating Indian florals. And Indian florals meaning tropical florals. Okay. So India, many of our flowers are seen in other countries, but tropical countries. Not so much a European or North American sort of a flower. Okay. So that made me go down this rabbit hole of checking Indian flowers out, references of Indian flowers. And I was thinking, why is it that we do not illustrate enough of this? I mean, we have plenty of Indian artists, plenty of Indian floral artists, but we do not have that much of illustrations, loose illustrations. So I said, let's go down that hole and let's see what we can do with Indian flowers. I won't say it was easy. It was not easy because there was no guide, nothing to look at, right? Normally, what happens when we want to paint florals, we look at people and how they approach a flower, how they've described their painting process. Now, without that help, it was mostly just me trying to figure out, put paint to paper and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay. And to that end, I will show you some disasters because you need to see disasters. Otherwise, you'll think everything just comes like that. It doesn't come. The first time you try something, it really gets looks horrible. So this was my attempt at trying Morning Glory. Look at my first Morning Glory. Ridiculous. So these things happen. And the other thing I was attempting loose florals on non-watercolor paper. So loose florals often tend to turn out better on watercolor paper because we are also quite liberal with water, with the use of water. And water doesn't do very well on non-watercolor paper. So your drawing paper that we are using for our books doesn't really hold much water. So what happens is the spread of water and the mix of colors, dark, lights is not the same on this paper as it is on watercolor paper. Okay. So which is why I said, like, if you all have watercolor paper handy, you can try the experiment of painting on this paper and painting the same flower on watercolor paper and seeing the difference. So you'll realize that, oh yeah, here, you know what, the dark color just stayed in that place. I put it down there and it didn't spread at all. It just stayed there. Whereas on watercolor paper, you put that dark color and it blends, beautifully blends. It just mixes away. So those kind of differences you will notice with paper. So that's what I'm saying. Experiment on both. Now, I have done all my experiments on this paper because this is what we are going to use largely, our drawing paper. Okay, you can do loose florals on drawing paper. Initially, of course, I was doing a few things. I did the sunflower and all that, but after doing a few, I realized I went back to the reference photo one more time and said, what is it that's not looking so great? So in the case of the sunflower, I felt it was looking, even though I got, what do you call it, the slant, the angle, okay, it's looking like a flat flower. You see what I mean? Like a flat, like absolutely pressed down and sideways. And the sunflower is not pressed down and sideways. Okay. So when I corrected that in my next attempt, I should show you the attempt. My next attempt at sunflower was this. So now this time I tried to work on, I looked at the reference one more time and I realized that actually it didn't need to become so flat. If you look at this corner flower, it didn't need to become absolutely flat the way I made it over there. Over here, this is better, slightly better. So these kind of changes, as you paint, you will yourself be able to identify what you could do better, or what you took from the reference nicely, but you did not, or you something that you let go entirely. That you can figure out as you go. Okay. Now the difference here also is this is drawing paper. This is our normal drawing book paper, and this is watercolor paper. So the colors also look nice and vibrant. Sometimes even spreads are much better on this paper. Okay, but not all that much different. Huh? You can still achieve a lot on this. So experimenting with this, I realized that Indian florals are not that easy to sketch. And so I'm actually taking it up as a challenge. If any of you all are able to continue during the week experimenting with Indian florals, please try and do so, because those are around us. Go, like, literally go to the garden, see what flowers we have, try and catch some angle, if possible, an angle. Now, all flowers we have certain flowers which are, what do you call it? Certain flowers which are tubular, like your morning glory. Like, so what happens is, if you look at the flower from the top, and I will show it to you with example. Can I spotlight? Let me spotlight. I did not spotlight. Yeah. Okay. Screen visible? Paper is visible, no? Just give me 1 minute. So if you go to Pinterest and type Indian flowers, you still will not find what you want. Huh? Okay. So I'm going to look at certain, yeah, this one, Morning Glory. Morning Glory, if you look at it from the top, it looks flat. It looks like a spread out flower with petals that are joined like this. But in reality, Morning Glory has a conical shape at the back, right? And we are not seeing it here. So it matters what kind of reference photo you decide to take. If you take a reference photo like this and sketch it, you are going to give the impression that Morning Glory is a flat flower. Okay. But if you take a reference that has, now if I go and look at other references of Morning Glory, you'll find some sideway appearance, sideway look. This one. See? So now keep these kind of things in mind when you are picking your reference photo. If you want to show the side view and the kind of top view of a flower, keep those things in mind, because in your composition, finally, you will need to place them correctly, right? A flower facing you, flower facing away from you, those kind of things. So a lot of our Indian flowers have this kind of a stalk, like not a stalk, a conical thing at the back, followed by the flower on top. Okay. For today, we will start with, I'll give you some reference photos. I have Morning Glory. I have, what which ones would you like to do now? I mean, there's a lot of options. There is shoe flower. This one is another one I illustrated, which is butterfly pea flower, right? Butterfly pea flower. Yeah. They use it in tea or something, right?
Yeah, Shank Pushpi. Yeah.
Correct. So if you have any choices, what I can do is let me share some with you. And if you have any preferences, we'll start off with that. Okay. I'll also share some. I looked at carnations because carnations are also quite popular in India.
Gulmore.
Gulmore, yes, yes.
Or that other one, the
Good
flame of the
morning,
forest.
Sorry, Alka.
The flame of the forest. That's also nice. The palash.
Palash and then this Amaltas.
Yeah, Amalthas
Yeah,
is
so
also
those
nice.
are actually quite nice because they're very shapely flowers. Now, the morning glory, my biggest problem was I could not demarcate the leaves. With loose florals, a few things we'll keep in mind. So maybe I'll just point these out before we start. If you look at loose florals, there is the laying down of color in a very, what we would call haphazard manner. Okay. So a few key things I would note here now is, in order to sketch loose florals, okay, one is the shape considerations to keep in mind. Shape of flowers and leaves. When I say shape, sometimes certain flowers are identified straight on by the shape of the petal. Okay, so for example, periwinkle. Okay, when I say periwinkle, you can almost imagine immediately that diamondish shaped leaf, petal, right? Pink, almost pointy diamond shaped kind of a petal. Moment I say, let's say, carnation, you're immediately in your mind, you think of the like almost like pencil shaving kind of a flower petal structure. So these things, no, which you kind of almost first relate to the flower, are the main things to capture in loose florals, because you can't capture all the fine detail of stamen, pollen, sepals. All those things may not always be easy to capture. So what must you capture? The key thing that makes it look like a carnation, or the key shape that makes it look like a periwinkle. Okay, so shape of the flower, and at this point I will also say shape of the leaf, because some flowers just look like normal five petal flowers, but their leaves will make you identify that this is, oh, this kind of flower. Okay, so for example, I think Shevanti has a very unique leaf, right? Now, not talking about flower, but if you think about any of those or creepers have some very lovely leaves, creeper plants. Okay, so if you're going to draw creeper plants, you may want to show the leaf shape more than the flower shape. Flower must be just five petals, but the leaf is very important. So that's why I'm saying shape of the flower or leaf. The other thing is a contrast. Now, contrast is very important for loose florals. Contrast between light and dark shades. On all your elements, so on flowers or leaves. This contrast is important. Why? Because since we are not going into fine details, if you don't put in a nice dark at certain places, you will not give it a sense of depth or dimension, which otherwise, so what will happen is otherwise your picture, your flowers are going to look quite flat if you just go with one tone of color. Okay, so whatever color you're using to paint your flowers and leaves, make sure that you start off with the lightest, and at some point in a later stage, whether it is immediately while the light is wet or later, put some dark shades at certain points. Not anyhow does not work. You have to look at your reference and see where the light is falling, where the shadow falls. So this is important, contrast between light and dark. And finally, a very key thing that I have noticed, my personal observation, is the use of white space. Okay. Use of white space is so very important in loose florals. Again, I'm asking you to go after class and check out loose florals. One of the key things you will find in almost all loose florals is the use of white space. Usually, we do not find big blobs of color with no white space in it. That is usually not seen. And that is because, again, it all goes back to the point that we are not being very specific about the fine details. And so what is happening is, if I put a color, a flat color without any white space, sometimes the demarcation between leaves is not visible. See, when we are doing a fine detailed work, we can put a dark line over a white space, a light space, and then you can still show the shape of the petal. When you don't have the liberty to do that, what happens is, if the white space is not there, the two petals will not look separated. There will be no separation between the petal and the stamen or the pollen that you're trying to do. So in a lot of places, you must consider putting white space. And I can show you some examples of white space. Okay, maybe as we go. Meanwhile, I'll send these photos. Sorry, my mistake. Not sending this early. Yeah. So here are a whole lot of flowers. Gerbera is one very common one. I think almost any florist you see will have gerbera. So keep an adequate, amount of water. We are going to use our cakes. Our cakes are not going to be very easy to work with when you're doing loose florals, because cakes require some effort to pry the color out of the cake, and we need a lot of paint. Keep your water close. And now brushes. When you're working with loose florals, you should consider using a brush that has a nice point. Now I'm just showing you any brush with a nice point. Okay. The point is important. Why? Because sometimes the finer details and the quick strokes are going to come out better with the point of the brush. So if it's a flattish brush, you may not get that kind of detail. You may get the shape of the flower, but the fine details you may not get. Okay. You also need a brush that can hold some water. So check your brushes. Some brushes hold more water than other brushes, and pick the brush that can hold the most water, or at least so that your paint doesn't wash off, get dry off after every petal. You can't keep going after every petal. Okay. Now, according to the size of the brush you use, your floral will turn out better. Your floral size will change or I should say the other way around. According to the floral size you want to make, you must choose the right brush. A medium-sized brush is best for medium florals. A fat brush, now if I'm looking at our, what do you call it? Yeah, this is a size 10. Yeah, size 10 camlin. If I'm drawing a big flower that fills the entire page, A5 page or more than that, I would go in with a size 10. But if I want to make it smaller, I will go in with a size 4 or 6 of any brush. Okay. And if I want even smaller than that, then I will change the size of my brush. The size of the brush matters. With a big brush, it's very hard to make small flowers. And with a small brush, you will be going back and forth so many times that it will not end up looking so great. Okay. We want to make not too many strokes. That's the whole point of the exercise. So if a big flower, you go in with a small brush, imagine the number of strokes you will need to just make one petal. All right. Let's start with a medium-sized thing. So I'm going to go with a size 6 or a size 4 according to thing. And I will show you first.
Susan, can we use mop brushes?
Yes, very much.
Mop brush?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, a mop brush is very nice because it can hold a lot of water.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah. Mop brushes are quite nice for it. Yeah, you can use a smaller size better if you want to make it on our kind of page. But if you're going to do larger florals, please go ahead and use a bigger
Yeah,
size.
because the size 0 looks like a size 4 regular brush. Can you see? This is a size 0 mob.
Yeah, mob brushes are, yes, you're right. Quite big.
Yeah.
Quite big. Yeah. So in the mob brush category, yeah, you're right. A 0 and a 2 and all, it's already big, quite big. You're right. So keep that in mind. I was going by normal round brush sizes, by the. Okay. Now in a loose floral, I'm just taking an example here, not of a particular flower, but I'm just going to show you how I would approach a loose floral. Now this is a 5-petal flower I'm trying to make. This is how we would normally color a flower. And you can do this even in a loose floral, by the way. I have colored in the entire 5-petal space. One key thing to do is introduce your dark color while the first layer of light color is wet. Now you see how it's spreading. It's not spreading great at all because this is not watercolor paper. I'm going to show the same example now in watercolor paper. Why? So that you understand that you can try this and get slightly different results on watercolor. So this is watercolor paper. Same flower. I'm going to go first in with a wash. Leaving the center slightly off. And then I go in with a deep color and just press it. It's going to dry differently from what you're seeing here, but the spread is very, very much different. In time, this is going to lighten and this is going to stay like this. Okay. Now the next, this is one difference I wanted to show you in terms of the spread of a dark color on a wet on wet, dark over on a light. You need this kind of application sometimes in loose floral. The other thing that I want to show you is the space, white spaces I was talking about. I'm going to draw another one. Look at my strokes, huh? Okay. And to this, I will do the same thing I did with I drop in a little bit of dark. Okay. So in this flower, the reference photo will definitely not have white patches in it, white lines in it. It will not have. But you are drawing it with, or you're painting it in with some white space in between. Okay. The best example to show you white space would be drawing a rose. And we are all familiar with a rose. If I draw a rose the way we see a rose, like this, should put more color. Okay, I'm going to get something like this. A big blur. I can go in and put more details, but I will need to go and put in more details to be able to show the demarcation between all my petals. But if I do leave some white space, this is what's going to happen. Between petals, it's not there in the actual rose that you're looking at, but I'm separating the petals with a little bit, wee bit, not too much. Okay. See the difference? I'm able to demarcate. So this white space in between helps me demarcate the petals of a rose. This is what you have to keep in mind when you're doing loose florals. Where do you want to add the white space that you do not see in the actual reference photo? Okay. You do not see it, but you're going to take the liberty to decide where to put that white space. This is also not just flowers. I'm going to also show you how a leaf will look if you decide to put white space in it. A normal leaf would be like this. Okay. But if I decide to go in with white space, this is how your leaf can look. So this is acceptable, absolutely acceptable in loose florals. So white space, I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to consider white space when you are trying to make loose florals. Not all florals need it, but many might. Okay. Okay. So now we'll go on to, shall we start with something that is in our reference list? Anybody has this thing to start with something that we have?
I wanted to share, can you
Yeah.
do marigold?
Marigold, yeah. Everyone's problem case, that is. Marigold is a nice one to start. Okay. So we've got one marigold here. Do we have more? Let me just see. I
Yeah,
think there was
we have that with the leaf also.
leaf also.
You sent a picture with the gamla.
Yes.
And also
Okay.
quite many before.
Okay. So we'll target just doing one flower and the leaves associated with it, not worry about the composition. Okay, right now let's not worry about where we place the flower. Let's just do the flower itself. Okay, so maybe one flower which is side facing like this, and we could let me see if I have a front facing, anything front facing. Actually, front facing wouldn't make much difference because it's all a big blob of yellow or orange. Let's do this. I myself discovered that we can do this many ways. Huh? I'm going to go in with some gamboge. You can choose to do it with white space. You can choose to do it without white space. So if I'm were to do it without white space, this is how I'd approach it. I'd give myself some sort of an outline with gamboge. I'm using gamboge and a size 6 round brush, normal round brush. I'm looking at the flower and trying to get its general shape. Okay, its general shape, and I'm putting in my yellow everywhere. Dabbing my yellow everywhere. Y'all can see my screen, no? I mean, there's no issue with,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So there's one petal here, something sticking out here. So basically like a silhouette of the thing, okay? Then you go in with a little bit of orange. While it is wet, I'll start applying orange where I feel I can see the dark shade. So I can see some here, I can see here, definitely some here. It's not moving as well as it would move on watercolor paper, but that doesn't matter. As long as it's spaced out. Okay, some little here. I may even consider putting a petal in orange, maybe over here. It looks like an untidy mass, okay? But let it be, because now in this kind of a flower where we haven't put any white space, adding the detail can't happen while it is wet. So let it dry, okay? Meanwhile, we can go in with a sap green over here and capture this part of the flower. So the flower has a slight, what do you call it, shape. Again, like that, the base of the flower, that is. And so this is important, but I'm being a little careful because my yellow is still wet. Let's go in with the leaf. Leaf is a very pretty one. Very pretty leaf. In fact, one over here as well. So the leaf looks like almost like these shapely leaves, except that it's got a slight ridge. Press down. Okay, this type of a leaf. You can choose to leave it this way. Do you see me bringing in dark colors from time to time and dropping it here and there into the light? This is a great thing to do with loose florals. Now, I also want to get a few ridges. So these leaves are not entirely smooth. They do have a few. Capture this if you can. Okay. Same way on top. I can see a leaf over here. Maybe I'll start with a nice dark shade of sap, followed by, as you paint your pigment is anyway going to get light. If you dip it in water, it's going to get even light. You'll get a really light shade of same pigment. Okay, so I'm drawing a leaf that is behind, just leaving it there. Add some shape to the leaf. See, the strokes are very, very loose. Huh? This is what we mean by loose. You are not worried that one jagged edge has become more than the other. It's okay. It's all right. Still, if you look at this flower, it looks quite nice as it is. But I am not comfortable with saying that this is complete because I have not put my darks in. I want more contrast. If you look at this picture, you can see so much of contrast. In fact, the base is darker, leaves are darker. So your choice now, whether you want to go in while it is wet or you want to go in, you wait for it to dry. If you go in wet, it's going to blend. See, at certain places, you add the darkness. Now it's already dry. Here, I'm going to put in dark at the base over here because I see it that way. And it is likely because the shadow of the flower is going to fall here. And then I will also add a slight sliver of dark color here. Gives it a little bit of character. So it's a very feel sort of a thing. See, loose florals. You have to feel like putting color somewhere. My dark colors come in and straight away the leaves are going to look a little bit accentuated. Now I take my gamboge, a little bit of orange and a little bit of light red. You know, light red is there on our palette at next to, I don't know where, next to what. Must be different for y'all. I'm not sure if this is
Scarlet.
right. Next to carmine?
Scarlet.
Okay, okay. Okay, this is still wet. I'm not very happy touching it while it is wet. We'll go on to another flower while we wait for this, okay? I don't want to wait too long. Any other requests? Do you all want to try this? Ixora? Or Gerbera? Gerbera has got nice leaves, huh? Very pretty leaves. But it's a variant of sunflower ka style. We can consider doing, let me see if I have a better Gerbera. Cone flowers or not.
Krishna was speaking, but we cannot.
Yeah, the blue one, what's that called? We used in cooking also, right?
Yeah,
PP.
yeah, the pink.
Yeah, the
Pea flag,
Gokarna. Yeah, that.
This one, no? Yes. So do we have, let me just see if I have the other one. There is one that is, oh, I didn't share. Only one I shared. Fine, fine. Let's look at this one only. It's leaves. I'm trying to look at the one which has leaves. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. There is one with leaves. Yeah. See this one? I'll send this to you. Because I just wanted to capture some of the leaves. Now this plant, no, it's like a bit of a, it's not a creep. Is it a creeper? It's a creeper, no? It's a creeper,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a paper.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. So it's not something that stands erect, which means if you're using it for decorative purposes, like for putting it into a composition somewhere, you have to consider laying it flat. Okay. So you have to look at it like this or make your composition look like this, even if you're not seeing the reference photo like this. But if you zoom in, let's try and get this. This one, in fact, I'm going to try even on the watercolor paper. So to make purple, you can start with ultramarine blue, and a little crimson. So with again with these loose florals, you may want to make a little bit of your color on the side here. It's not little bit, adequately actually, because if you're going to add more water, this color should not get over. So make enough for one flower at least. I'm putting in very little.
It looked more like cobalt blue, right? It's it's a purple, is it?
Ultramarine. It is, yeah, it is
Oh,
actually
okay, okay.
purple. On the screen here, it is on the screen for you, it may be looking blue. But if you look at the phone on your phone, it may be purple. Just check
Okay.
it out. I think the
Sure.
screen is turning it into a blue. Just check on your phones. For me,
Yeah.
on the phone, it's looking purple. So whichever way, even if it is blue,
Sure.
no, it is just a question of finding the matching it to a color that you consider closest. But here, let's look at the technique of maybe getting this. So the yellow, there is a yellow in the center, which we have to consider. So let me just lay down this dark color liberally. You get the shape of the flower. It has a okay, something like this. Next part will be bringing in the color like this. You can dry off your brush and pull it in further. See, now what happens is it starts to lighten. Wash your brush. By the time you bring it to the center here, the water should be almost no color. And then you take your, it looks like lemon yellow to me. Check and see what you see it as. And I will put a lemon yellow here in the wet portion. Okay. Now, you will ask, where is this purple? This purple will have to go on top after it has dried. Okay. So if I don't put the yellow down now, I will not be able to get that yellow very well. But you can try putting the purple beforehand. I've always tried it without putting the purple before. The same yellow I'm going to extend here at the base of this flower. It's actually yellow turning green. So if you want to touch it to a green, just a wee bit, see, wet your brush. It won't blend unless you wet it. There. And make sure you draw this part of the flower because this is so unique to this flower. This joining. It joins the main body. Where you have to use the tip of the brush, use the tip. This is something I assume everybody knows, but it's not necessary that you have been aware of it. Use the tip of your brush to get same brush. Don't try to change the brush just to get a thin stroke. If you have to be able to manipulate your same brush to get a thin stroke and a thick stroke. So I'm using the same brush and I'm going to now try getting a few petals in. So the shape of the petal also is quite nice. It's like a not pointy, but also not round. And they seem to be originating from the same point too, like maybe this is a dicot maybe. I think dicotyledonous plants have got something I've heard of. The leaf, two leaves come out of the same point at the same point or something. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm mistaking it. Not sure. Monocots and dicots have a different something in the leaf that indicates it's a monocot or dicot.
Monocots are mostly the grasses.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay. But aren't there monocot flowering plants also?
Yeah, there should be. But
There
this
should
one
be.
is a dicot. So dicots are basically when you open the seed pod, the seed will conveniently break into two.
Split into two. Correct, correct. So I'm going to put this petal almost like covering my. Okay, I'm just leaving two petals on it. While it is wet, I'd like to go in with deep sap green and put some shade here. Okay. On the same leaf. Same way, I want to put that same deep sap green on one side of the this kind of blending is very, very important for loose florals. And don't leave a flat color. As much as possible, try not to leave a flat color. Okay. We'll go back to our Gerberas. No, sorry. Shevanti. Marigold. Marigold is not Shivanti. Chrysanthemum is Shivanti.
Daswandi.
Ah, right.
Daswandi.
That's right. So marigold, where is it? The reference. Now we have to go a little carefully with the darker shade. Just test your dark shade at the side if you want. We are blending gamboge, little orange, and a little bit of light red. 3 colors. I just want to see the hue. So I'm going to put still very orange. So I'm going to put a little more light red. Yeah, this would be a nice shade. Okay, and now I will try and see if I can highlight some petals. Some petals. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going into this shade and I'm going to start curving. Hold on. Start curving some of the petals. And here, everything is not distinguishable. Don't worry about that. Just see if you can add in a few shapes that indicate leaves. Sorry, petals. What am I saying? Leaves, petals. Few of the shapes. You can't draw all of them. This is like rose. You can't draw every one of them. So mostly what you're doing, if you notice, is you are using the dark shade to do the to show the shadow of a petal or the outer part of a petal. I don't know how to explain that. Let's say, okay, here there is a petal, okay, but the petal is yellow and we don't want to color the petal orange. So to get the yellow out, we put orange on the outer part, that is on another petal, on both sides, and suddenly this yellow petal starts to form, right? So it's like a bit like negative painting, not a bit, it is negative painting. See over here, my petal has got some shape and darkness. So I'm going to put it in there. See? But don't go into too much of detail. Again, remember, we are doing loose florals. So it's just got to be a touch of this and a touch of that. That's it. A hint of everything. Okay. At some places, you may feel that you want to put a little bit more of darker shade. So like, for example, here, I feel like I want these intricate portions. I would like to put a little bit of a darker shade or something here, somewhere here, one over here for sure. Okay. These kind of things you can add in. As you add in more detail, the more vibrant and more this thing, it becomes more dimensional. It definitely becomes a little more dimensional. There, here. Yeah, I'm getting it. And that's it. I'm going to leave it this way. Does this look like marigold to you?
Yes.
Very beautiful.
I can
Okay,
understand a lot now.
So it is not anything like the reference photo. Hold the reference next to you and see. It's not like it at all. But you've captured the gist.
Yeah.
You've captured the gist, and that's it.
I think, Suzanne, the first learning work you started with the outline part and coming inside. I think I got scared of, and then I'm like, okay. So I start with the center and then I'm going out. But I think it helped me more to, see that maybe coming inside and then highlighting on taking another just for the highlights, and then you create those petals with that dark color. I mean, to pop up dark color. So
correct. So that is one approach. Now I'm going to try another approach. Same thing, same flower. I'm going to see if this will allow me to do incorporate white space. There is no white space. Okay, we've drawn this actually quite true to what it is. There is no white space. But I'm going to draw the same thing and see whether white space will make a difference. Will my illustration look different? Okay. So I've not done it this way. I'm just experimenting. So let's see. Let's see what happens if we put some white space. And with white space, I may not have to worry about waiting for it to dry to put darker colors. It's going to look less like a individual leaves, which you just now did. Those individual leaves are not going to look very much individual now. But it is faster. It is definitely a faster approach. See, I'm literally dropping some color somewhere and letting it spread. Okay. Then I go in with my green and I'm in a hurry, so I'm not going to even bother if it's bleeding. And here is some bulb. Here's my leaf. This is very quick and very, very loose. So there will always be some artists whose work you will look at and say, oh, that's just too loose. I can't make out one flower from the other, or it's all just blending all there. That is very much acceptable in loose florals. Okay. So I'm exaggerating the petals and I'm not even waiting for it to dry before I go in with a deeper shade. See, my bleeds already come in. This is also marigold.
I'm glad you
So
shared.
you see, it can be done.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
could understand. I mean, both of them works. It's just that I mean, I can go by both of them. So I'm glad you shared this one.
Ah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying, no? You can actually take the same reference photo and try it all different things.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily do it one way. That is what I like about loose florals. There is no one way.
No.
Some artists love to be so loose that one flower is bleeding into another flower and then another flower into the petal, and it's like a big bunch of blobs, and they call it roses with leaves, and so it is roses and leaves. But that is loose. That is highly loose according to some of us. But we've also ourselves demonstrated that you can have two different loose.
Yes.
Right. If I spend another 1 hour on this, I may have probably other versions of the same thing. Now, one more thing I can tell you is that with loose florals, you have the liberty of trying a few brushes other than round brush. I have here a very popular brush which floral artists use, and that is the filbert brush. Okay. The filbert brush lends itself very much to florals because of its rounded tip. So you should know about it. You don't have to get a filbert brush, but you should know that a lot of artists paint with the filbert brush. And certain flowers like this particular marigold, lend themselves, and chrysanthemum, for example, they lend themselves to the use of this brush, or the brush lends itself to be used for those kind of flowers. Now let me show you how I take the filbert and just loosely apply get some strokes in. It's the shape of the brush that's helping you get the petal. Okay. You can do it with round also. A lot of filbert artists will tell you that they can do the same thing with a round brush. And you will be able to, but the filbert will just make it a little better, little more, what do you call it, shapely. With a round, that end shape you may not be able to capture as well, or in one stroke, whereas with the filbert, in one stroke you'll be able to get it. Okay, so that's what you'll notice now. Here I'm going in, it's too dark. Okay, let's try here. Yeah. You can turn your brush around and try all sorts of experiments. So you should know that a filbert brush is a very nice brush to use. And it gives you some petals. Oh, they are so pretty, some petals. See, petal like this. Suppose I'm assuming there's a plant which has a petal like this. I should have done the other way.
Is it a 0 size or 1?
This one
brush.
is 1 minute. It's a 1/4 inch filbert. I just bought it because I have, like the bigger filbert brushes, which are not like any particular brand. And I found that they were not so great, the big ones. I had to make big florals. First of all, I had to make big florals. I couldn't make small ones. So I said, let me invest, since I have the big ones in an unbranded one, let me try this particular silver silk 88 series, which is an expensive brush. So I said, instead of buying the same big size, let me buy a small size so that I have a small and big, no? So my bigger brushes look like this. See, filbert brushes are like this. But again, I'm not very happy. The quality of brushes, according to brands, does vary. The quality of brushes. So you can try, experiment, and see what suits you best. But this is another way of putting a so I wanted to show you how brushes can help you achieve certain effects. Okay. All right. Going back to our what was this? I forget. Our butterfly P. We have to finish putting that in between purple. Okay. So look at our reference. Butterfly P. So the reference has got a little bit of a shapely thing over here. Okay, it's not turning out. Shapely, don't have to follow the shape exactly, but give it some look of a center portion. It is going to try not to go in with too many strokes because we've already laid a yellow. The more strokes you put, that yellow and the purple are going to mix and give you some unnecessary color. So I'm not going to go back in too much. I will, however, take the same purple and the tip of my brush to get these strokes. And this is a nice effect. You probably want to capture this. The lines on the, and they're radiating lines. So just keep that in mind. If you feel like putting a little bit of a border at certain places, especially here, put that in. You could have done it while it was wet also. Huh? And if you had done it while it was wet, it may have blended very well. A lot of people like to do it. It's something that you should consider. See, I'll show you one more example. Here's me laying down a light purple. Okay. I'm doing it sideways now. So you can, and let's say I brought the color in. I washed my brush and I left it whitish here. To which I add a little bit of yellow. So people will drop in color like this very often on. Yeah, Malika, no problem. Malika is gone, I think. Okay. While this is wet, take a nice deep shade of purple, blue, whatever is your color of choice, and try dropping it along the edges. This is another option. Must not forget that this option is especially on watercolor paper. On watercolor paper, this blends very, very well. Now on our paper here, it's not doing a great job, but it is still giving you the effect of darker border on a lighter base. I'm just picking up some extra paint, extra water actually. I wanted to show you the outline being, the outer part being dark and how to get that. So if you apply it dry, you're going to get a hard edge over here, which may not be very pretty in the end. But if you apply it while it's wet, you will not get any hard edges. Now, after my green is dried, even though I have put a green with shading and all that, my green is still looking a little flat to me. So I'm going to go in with, this is a trick, not a trick, I would say a tip that I found from a few artists. When they want to darken a green, they always wonder, how do you darken a green? You usually add a blue or blue usually. But one person said, take your green, whatever green you use. Now I use sap green over here, okay? And add one small dot of the color of the flower for which you are putting putting leaves, okay? So now in this case, it is purple. In this case, it will be yellow orange, like that color. In maybe a pink rose, it will be pink. Whatever the color of the flower, add a dot of that color into your green, into whatever green you had first made for your base color. Okay, and darken it with that color. Don't darken it. So I'm taking purple from here and darkening my green with that purple and applying it on the leaf. I don't know who it was. I can't remember right now, but it was such a,
Sushma,
I
I
felt
guess.
like such a valid point.
Sushma.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
was it Sushma? Oh, okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was Jolly or Sushma. Awesome. I thought,
I
what
haven't
a
seen
smart
Jolly's
idea.
tutorials.
Oh, you have not?
Who's
Okay,
Jolly?
okay. I don't know. Maybe you're
Okay.
right. Maybe it's Sushma only. Maybe it's Sushma. I've listened to both actually for so many times. I'm not sure. Sometimes I get mixed up. But what a smart idea, no? I thought it was very
She
unique.
tells that
And
it becomes very harmonious. The undertone is there, right? The flowers undertone.
right. Correct. So that was a great hint. I thought it was very, very valuable. And I definitely apply it to sing because otherwise I run out of greens to apply. No, I'm all the time darkening my green with a blue or some shade that is constantly looking the same. Eventually my green is all turning out to be the same. So how do I make the difference? This is an excellent way. Now on this wonderful paper, nothing useful has happened. I'm going to experiment on watercolor paper. I'm very curious to know how this works. I'm just going to go with blue because I can't make any. Purple is not readily available. You can see my paper, no? Watercolor paper. Yeah. I'm wobbling my brush to get the shape that I want. Then I clean my brush off and I just basically pull in all the color. And while it is pulled in, I go back in and I just apply a little bit of the border. I'm just checking whether the blending is going to be better or not. Whether the blending is going to be better or not. So I didn't like this blend. This thing on the paper turned out quite poorly. Now, we have one more technique that is very interesting for florals, and that is picking up paint. Picking up paint to get lines on florals. Very nice technique it is. So you lay down your paint and you take a dry brush and you simply pick up more paint. See, like here. The moment you pick up a little bit of paint, it leaves an area there which is not white, but lighter shade of the same color that you just used. So it's a very lovely technique. But it's a technique you have to apply while it is wet. So you have very limited time in which you can do this. But it works. It definitely works. It gives a lot of, texture to your petal. Okay, I'm going to leave this to dry. Let it dry over there. What next? So we've done P, we've done. What else would we like to do?
I always
Carnation?
thought about
Something
this.
pink?
Oh, okay. Among these, is it?
Which one?
We can choose
one?
from these or any others.
No, and do you have anything else? Share it on the group, then we can try it out.
Yeah. One is the
Which one?
rain lilies that we have, and also this
Ah, you have a rain
Kankambra.
lily? Yeah. You have a rain lily reference photo?
Yeah.
I'll just share it on the group, then we can paint it. Rain lilies are pink rain lilies. I haven't tried rain lilies, so we should try it out. Pink is
But
a
I
nice
have a
color right now.
front facing. Let me share.
Yeah, that's okay. Whichever, let's take whatever we have, and then we'll work around. If we need another reference photo, we'll check it out. I'll also see if I
Also,
have a
the
rain lily.
bird of paradise flowers, the
Oh
heliconia.
yeah, bird of paradise. Yes, those are also very pretty. Bird of paradise. Ah, there. So we have. Oh yeah, this Varsha, this orange one. No, my goodness, I went the other day. I was going for this summer camp with my son, and there was one garden that had this all over the place, everywhere. I couldn't resist looking and taking photos. I forgot the name. It's called wait.
I don't know, in Kannada it's called Kankamra.
Yes.
In Marathi,
It's
it's called
pretty
aboli.
difficult to
Aboli in
What?
Marathi.
Aboli, yeah.
Oh, aboli, is it? Okay. So
I thought
pretty.
it's difficult to paint, but after your instructions, right, I thought I can give it a try. It's not that
You should give
difficult.
it a try. You should.
Yeah.
And what is lovely about it, most of all, is the stalk. Look at the part under the flower.
Yeah.
If you can
Hmm.
capture this loosely, if you can, it is so pretty. It is going to be. I can almost imagine how pretty it is. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll try it out. Huh? Just like
Yeah.
quickly.
And
Since
as you said, it has a distinct shape.
yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to like quickly, very loosely try this. Sometimes loose paintings can be fast, quite quick, because your strokes are short. So doesn't mean that all loose florals. There's no fixed time for making a loose floral. You can make it as quickly or as slowly as you want. Okay, now we have an orange, So I'm going to actually, you know what? It's a nice orange, but it's not the orange that is on my palette. I don't know, it's just my feeling that I need to mix a color for this because my orange here is so saffron orange. I don't want saffron. This is not saffron. This has a slight pink undertone. So I'm going to try combining crimson and gamboge. Let me try crimson and gamboge. Not red. It's not a reddish color. It is a little pinkish. So crimson and gamboge. Yeah, that's more like it. Let me try. What is, oh, there's no reference. So I'm going to go in with the lightest shades, giving myself some sort of a shape. And white space. I'm putting in white space also. With loose florals, I get a little worried when I start making it like a big blob. Let's darken this a bit.
Varsha, what's the name of this flower?
Kankamra.
Yeah.
Kankamra. Yeah.
Because I have it at my home, but I don't know what's the
In
name.
Marathi, they say aboli, it seems. No?
Yeah. In Marathi, it is aboli.
There are
But I'm
abundant of
not.
flowers.
Sorry, what did you say?
There are many abundant. If you go in the flower market, please.
Very abundant, no? This is,
They
yeah.
use them to make the gajras, na? Along with mogras.
Yeah.
This one, is
Another
it?
flower that is really pretty is the parijat. That is also such a pretty flower. White with
Yeah.
the bright orange stem.
हाँ हाँ
You just
White,
opened the
हाँ.
door, Susan, to Indian class. Seriously.
Yeah.
Very nice class today.
So now the leaf on this flower is so pretty. It's lending itself to being, painted. I like the leaf a lot. It's very, yeah, because we don't pay attention to Indian flowers. No, we only look for the instructions online, and I'm guilty of that actually, because I end up doing loose florals that I see on YouTube, and I don't play around enough. See, we have to learn to play around with the references we have. Also, when we draw stems, we must try our best not to make them very straight. One hint, one tip, I would say, is what Aditi always tells us: hold the brush far away. Hold the brush far and draw your long stem. It is very hard to draw a straight line when you are holding your brush so far away. And so the curve that is going to come from drawing a long stem when you're holding the brush so far away is going to make it look organic. So this is quite a dark flower actually, come to think of it. I should add more darkness. Dark in the sense that the green is actually quite dark. Again, on the stem, I will like to put the dark only on one side. Or underneath where the shadow is. I'm picking up a little bit of paint here and there because I feel maybe I went in too dark. But only if you can pick up, like only if the paint is dry. Otherwise, you will not get this. In leaves, very often the base of a petal or this thing is dark. Yeah, I don't mind stopping here. We can add in a few more details, but even if you
Lovely.
did not,
It doesn't look,
even if you
in
did
fact, it looks really realistic.
it's just yeah, I mean, I like fast stuff. this is easy to do on a card, right? Like, so yesterday I told you I was doing cards yesterday. I did like 4 cards, like in a matter of must have been what, 30 minutes. So what I did was I'm quite impatient when I'm doing loose florals, and I find that when I want to, like, where's the impatience? Impatience is when I put down the first layer of color on the flower, and then I want to draw the stalk and all the other things. So the green can very often mix so badly with the main flower. See, I don't mind the green mixing, but when all of the green goes into the flower, then there is no point. Then my flower's color is lost. So to allow the color to dry a bit, I said, let me make 4 cards simultaneously. So I drew the flower of every single card first. Then I went back to the first card and drew the green of the leaf. Then I went back to the, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4. So what happened by doing that exercise is, wherever I needed to wait for 2 colors not to blend too much, or wherever I wanted to put dark on top of a light, it worked very well. So that is why I got this. See, I painted all this, but I did not put the brown centers. I left it. Because I was in such a hurry. Before the yellow dried, I wanted to put the brown. Now, if I put the brown, it is evident that one section of my sunflower would turn dark brown. The yellow would just pick up the brown and finished. So I did not want it. Some artists want it and they do it, but I did not want it, and so I let it dry. And after it was dry, I went in with the dark color, and it worked out well for me. Yesterday's this thing was not so great. See, like today's is slightly looser than yesterday's. This was my yesterday's attempt. Then what else did I do? I did periwinkle because I loved periwinkle. It is such a plain flower, periwinkle. Nothing great about it. It's the leaf that makes it great. Right? The flower itself is like what, very, very plain. Like very, very plain. Nothing about it. But the leaf ka lines, no? It's so pretty once you have it. And then the moment you look at this, this is periwinkle only. It can't be anything else. So that's what I was telling you, that the leaf is also important. Don't ignore leaves of flowering plants, because sometimes it is a combination of a leaf and a flower that gives the flower its character. What was the last one? Yeah, I love this one because this is like very much like your hydrangea, right? Same concept, except shape of the petal is very thin and narrow and sharp, pointy. Hydrangea is a little wider. That's it. So this is also so common, no? We pass by gardens and all, they have these big bunches of Ixora everywhere, right? We just don't draw it. Why don't we draw it? It looks nice. So I'm definitely going to make some marigolds for sure on cards. And maybe it makes for good Diwali cards. Who knows? Festive cards, because we use marigolds for festive occasions. All right. Any more flowers that we can paint? We have 15 minutes. We should definitely paint a few more flowers. Indian flowers. Any pinks? Shall we do? I don't know. What type? What type shall we do?
Maybe can we
Can
try
do those drooping
Madhu?
Which
ones.
one?
I sent a
Sorry?
picture. I sent a picture. Can you see the drooping one? I don't know now. In Marathi, it's called Madhumalti. I don't know what.
Madhumita. Yeah, the one which is falling down.
Yeah, those also grow in nice
Ah,
bunches.
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
That is one tricky flower because you are not
Yeah.
going to see its face ever.
Exactly.
So let me go look at Pinterest. What do you have a reference photo on?
I've
I can
put
look
one
at
on the
and-
group.
Yeah.
Oh, Acha, you put one. Okay. Let me check. Oh, we didn't do the rain lilies. We should have tried the rain lilies also.
We can do that.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. I know this one. Chalo, let's try. What could go wrong? Worst case, you won't try it again. That's all.
The page is looking so pretty, Susan. My God,
Yeah.
so colorful
Colors
and
are so
bright.
lovely,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I know. I love. That's why I'm saying every now and then, no, I have this tendency to, people talk about resetting. Sometimes you get resetting like your mind also. You get bogged down by either a style of painting or a topic of painting. Like you may start landscapes. I get hooked onto landscapes, and then after some time, I get tired of it. I'm fed up of landscapes. Or I tire of many things very fast. But what happens at the end of tiring out something is I go back to florals, paint myself and very often loose florals, not your fine work. Very loose florals, make like three pages of roses, and very often I need to do it because I need to make it for someone's card, like birthday card. Chalo, best way when you are fed up of one topic or you want to get a break of something, take out 2-3 watercolor papers, like 200 GSM watercolor paper, fold it, make 3 cards, paint it off immediately. Like immediately, whatever flower comes to mind, just paint, which is usually what? Rose is the plenty. Rose and peonies and all of those things. Paint quickly, make 3 cards, and you have reset your mind. because florals have taken away whatever was earlier sitting there, you know, bogging you down. And then I move on to whatever else I want to do. So the next topic, what is it? Okay, to drawing beverage or drawing a fruit or food or whatever. So I use florals as a reset very, very often. Now here in the example we have, our flowers are not exactly as pink as I have visualized them. I've seen them more pink, but it doesn't matter. We will try to see if we can get it like it is looking here. So I'm going to first start with a little bit of gray because it seems like a whitish flower. I don't know if you can see, but the first flower is a little bit white. So I'm using like such a light shade of gray, no? You can't hardly see it. And then I will touch my pink to it and put it in the center. Again, I'm going to touch of gray, like very light gray, because if I darken it, it's going to become like almost blackish, and you don't want blackish. You want the flower definitely not to have a black hue. So यहाँ पे it is almost sleeping there. So I'll leave it that way. I'll do one here. I know you can't see this color because I'm trying to keep it very, very light. But when I put the next shade on top of it, you'll be able to see. There's one here. Okay, now I'm going to go in with the pink. You can't always visualize the flower when you are painting it loosely like this, how it will dry, how the flower will dry. So don't worry about it too much. In the center, surprisingly, it has a little bit of green, no? Like I see a little bit of green in the center. Before we put that, let me deepen the center a bit. Now the pink is not looking pink, it's looking more red here. And then I'm going to hold my brush far away. Sap green is definitely the color because it's so light. Hold my brush far and you're going to make a stroke, okay? Still a very hesitant stroke. At my side पे there is some funny thing happening here. But we are now moving into the area of composition a little bit because these flowers need some context. So we are concerning ourselves with a little bit of composition. Okay, this has to dry before I do anything more. See, this is where disasters happen with me. I can't wait. So I'm going to do something else in the meanwhile. We'll do that rain lily. Oh yeah, these are nice. Zai, or these are more like what I visualize them to be. Pink, quite pink. Let me try that also. Chalo, niche we'll try, no? What is the harm? These are quite pink, crimson. Makes me go back to crimson. Okay, so let's try it on the side here. Now, just advice, but if you're going to use a flower like this for a card, think also of when you're doing when you're worrying about composition of flowers, think also how the flower appears in nature. A flower like this will be good on a card as long as it's coming from the top. That means your composition has to be something that falls from the top of the card. Okay, because the flower lends itself to that. Now, if you are drawing something like Indian paintbrush or any of those gladioli are flowers that are definitely starting ground up, right? So if you were to paint gladioli, please don't paint it from the side, coming sideways in, coming from the top in. Don't ideally avoid it, because a gladioli is known to stand from the ground up. So your card should have these flowers coming from the bottom up. Keep those kind of things in mind. Okay. Just like these, what do you call it? I just now did the sunflower. I ideally would not like to change the position of a sunflower such that it is coming in from any corner or any side, because we see sunflowers as vertical, and that should be conveyed in the composition. Yeah. Where is my? I'm just trying these flowers as well. Now dilute that pink a bit. And let's try one here. This is also a tricky business because my diluted pink is not going to, it's not going to show very well on paper at the moment. And we have to be very worried not to touch not to touch too much, not to let it touch the dark pink too much, because the dark pink is just going to flow in. There's very light ones over here on this side. One that is almost sideways. Okay. Leave that to dry, and I'm coming back here. I'm going to reduce the size of my brush because I think my brush is too big. Okay, back to the earlier one that we were doing. Little bit of green for the centers.
These are looking so beautiful, like that wisteria.
Yeah, correct.
Lovely.
Yeah. And they are used also. So many houses use it for that kind of purpose. You know, I've seen it on top of gates, like a canopy over gates. Oh, so pretty. They are so pretty.
And I have a whale inside in my garden, and it's
Mhm.
like kind of climbed my fence and it's gone onto the tree outside and climbed right to the top of the tree.
Oh,
And so when
really?
you sit, yeah, when you stand in my garden, you can look up at the tree and you can see all these flowers cascading down. It's so pretty
My goodness.
because
I
it
can
It's in
climbs
your
imagine.
like,
garden?
huh? Yeah,
It's in
yeah.
your
Yeah, I
Oh,
put it in
wow.
a pot because we are not allowed to put stuff into the ground, because it's on a tilt level.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there is no real earth. It's like okay, like the tilt level garden. So in
yeah.
my house, it's in a pot, but it's climbed over the fence and onto the tree outside and climbed right to the top of the tree.
Too much.
So
Wow,
like
beautiful.
10 feet or something. And then you can see. And now because you're standing at the bottom, you can see all the flowers, no? Because they're all looking down at
Yeah,
you.
Lovely. You share pictures, Kalka, of that. If
yeah,
it's in your house, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's
Yeah,
looking
it'll
very
be
pretty,
different.
Susan.
yeah.
I've
Fun, no? When
stopped
you
painting. I'm
experiment.
just watching you.
No, don't stop painting. Do some. It's great fun when you do.
I
I mean,
mean,
I don't know.
but
I
I'm
have
just
no idea
watching.
this is going to turn out this way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not painting, I'm just watching you. You're so therapeutic.
Same here. I'm only watching Susan.
Aditi comes back. She's gonna say, "You guys were just watching. What did you do? What did you paint?"
I am, even though I'm watching, I'm learning a lot from you. I will remember all these lessons. It's not as if I won't.
Thank you.
You know,
That's
when
very
Aditi comes, we have to throw the eraser, throw the pencil also. Last week also we didn't use pencil.
yeah. Last
Directly with brush.
yeah. There is an artist called Onmar. I'm sure many of you follow her. I like her style of loose florals, but what she does is, and it's very interesting. I mean, it's a good thing to know. You may not want to do it always, and sometimes you may. She uses at the end of her illustrations, she uses a pen. I'll tell you what pen. This pen, this dip pen. She takes a normal dip pen like this, okay, and she will dip it into walnut ink. Walnut ink is brown. Okay.
Okay.
I don't have walnut ink and I have never used bought walnut ink. So what I do as a replacement, because I've seen Onma do it, is I just dip it in a brown paint. So what I do is something like this. See, I make brown paint, I wet it, and I just put it on my nib here like this. Okay. So it'll give me a little bit of pigment. It'll run for like few lines and then it will stop working. But it now I don't mess up something. Actually, yeah, here. I'll show it on the first page. I have some examples, right? So I can show it you there. Yeah. See this flower here? So she will go on the outer part of this flower and she'll give it a shape like this. She'll draw the pollen with this. Okay. And that is just so magical to me. Like how that simple flower took got character. See, now she'll do this. She'll just run a few lines. In fact, one challenge she had put, I decided to do this style only. And all my florals were just this, where I insisted on using the pen and making my flower. Just look at that. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, it suddenly pops out.
Yeah, exactly. And because it's not black, I mean, I'm using brown. Hers is walnut ink, which is brown. So because it's not black, it's not it's not such a sharp contrast. It
Yeah,
kind
it's
of,
not in your
it's very
face. It's
cohesive.
not in your
Yeah,
face.
it's very cohesive. Correct. So I'm
Yeah.
using pink, I'm using brown with pink, I'm sometimes using brown with yellow, I'm using brown with so many other colors. But brown being brown, it is not as hard a border as black. Simple as that. And she uses only brown, only that walnut ink. So cool, no?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I find this so I at one time that challenge I took for 7-day florals, I did only this. Every one of my florals I was doing only this just to be able to get comfortable with a pen and highlighting things with a pen.
So I tried doing this on foxglove.
Oh, nice.
So here I mean, I drew the outline first and then try to fill it
Okay.
the colors.
Oh,
Let me see. Oh, very nice.
oh
Very,
yeah.
very pretty. So that's the thing, no? See, the outline is not necessarily like your paint and outline are not touching each other perfectly. One goes out, one goes in. Doesn't matter. It's all just very, very nice. That was very nice. Zai. So we've done this one. And I could go darker. I know we are over time. We'll just finish this last one here and we'll stop. Meanwhile, maybe as if you all are up to it, we can try that rain lily over the week. Yeah, and share on the group. I want to definitely try and rain lily because I've not tried it before. So I'm going to draw the it's got some lines sticking out here. Curves are a challenge sometimes because we do not see all curves. Some look like flat lines to us, especially as they are closer to us. So expect that it will not be the most comfortable experience drawing these kind of curved flowers this way in this this view. The center we have green. But before we go to the green in the center, I would want to put a little bit of pink first. Too dark. So one or two petals here and there becoming light and dark, no? They add so much to the painting. Just a few light and dark shades. Now here, this is definitely, they add so much. And for the darker ones, you can definitely darken it further. So there could be one here. Now I know there are definitely some dark ones here. I can paint in a few more petals that are hiding behind. It's easier to draw dark petals after everything has dried. Huh? This is definitely something you want to remember. After things have dried, you can draw these extra bits. There is one somewhere here also. I can see something peeking out. Yeah. Now after this, we can go in with a little bit of green. Only where it is dry, I'm just putting a little bit of green. Here, in fact, it's almost yellowish green. Yeah, I'm going to leave it that way. Everything converging here is turning dark. So we can bring that darkness out a bit. At certain places, this kind of the joining may be visible. the part where the stem touches the flower. And I think some of them have a little bit of some shape. I'm just giving it that outline one more round so that the shape of the petal stands out. Yeah, not too bad. We definitely know what flower that is. So, what was I saying earlier? We will continue the rain lily if we can during the week. Do attempt it. It is quite a pretty flower. And if you want to attempt something like this, where you're taking a pen and trying to give it some try that as well. It's quite pretty. It's a something that can grow on you if you like it. Yeah. All right. So loose florals are great fun, and let's just take up the challenge of trying Indian florals, because that's something that is definitely not getting enough light of day. And we have so many pretty colors. I'll give you one more challenge. One more challenge is painting white Indian flowers. We have a lot of white flowers. I specifically did not take it up today because in addition to trying to get loose strokes and overall loose appearance, I didn't want to get into the color of white and how to get white out. But you could attempt it. What I will tell you is, for white, the highlight, to highlight white, you have to make sure that there is enough green around. So make sure that whatever you are drawing has got enough leaves. Okay. So the leaves around the flower will make the white stand out. And the other way the white will stand out is if you use shades of gray, very light gray, as lines and marks on the flower itself, specifically towards the core of the flower. Yeah. So towards the center of the flower, if you are, yeah, Tarani, bye. So if you are at the center of the flower, if you want to show the highlight of that gray becoming little darker towards the center, all that you can try, attempt, and see whether your white stands out. It does work, huh? It does work. But you have to play around a little bit more than you have to play with other colors. Yeah, just try white, maybe only the flower, few leaves, whatever. Try a few white flowers. That is the next challenge. Yeah. Otherwise, that's about it for today's class. Let me, I mean, if you all, have you all sent anything? I haven't looked at the
I've
chat. Have
sent.
you all sent anything? Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice, Alka.
Thank you.
Very nice. I like this one very much.
I did that with the filibert brush.
Filbert, no? Yeah,
Ah.
yeah. It's very nice. It's come out
Yeah.
very nice. Very nice. Super. And your lines on this are very good, huh? Your lines on
Yeah.
this
I thought they became a
butterfly.
little thick. I should have used a finer brush. Or maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah.
paint
That's
was-
so, see, that is something that
Ah.
you're going to have to figure on your own
Yeah.
only, yeah. Because very often I start with a very thick brush. Like thick means fat
Hmm.
brush. And I've realized that I start with a fat brush, and then I start making my florals so big. I can't fit. I intended 3 flowers and I ended up with only 1 because it's so big. And by the time the leaf comes, then the space is gone. And then I realized it was my fault for having started with the big brush.
Ah.
So just be a little concerned about the brush, because I know it has happened to me more often than not that I planned one thing, but I eventually ended up with something else because I did not pick the right brush for the space I have.
Ah.
The space may be, if it's a small space like A5, no, you
Yeah.
definitely don't want to take a big brush.
Ah.
With a big brush, your strokes will become big and your flower will also become very big. So if you're trying to fit 3 flowers, it's not going to happen with a big brush. At least unconsciously, it is not going to happen. Consciously, if you make an effort, it may work. But unconsciously, a big brush is not. And that is also because we are not drawing any outlines, right? That is
Yeah,
because we are not
exactly.
drawing outlines. We are going to the paper with brush, with paint directly. And so you have not estimated the space, or you have not left the space. And so with one stroke, that stroke could be so big that now your flower is, every petal has become big and the flower has become big, right? So something that some artists do is that they also draw circles, like light circles, to mark out where they want. These- Not a problem.
Alright.
In
It's very nice.
Thank you. I enjoyed this class.
Uh,